People want Bitcoin. They don't want U.S. Treasury bonds anymore. It was a primary money for so many years, but the U.S. dollar no longer world reserve currency. So I don't want U.S. Treasury bonds. I want Bitcoin. So it's demonetizing the bond market. That's a $200 trillion honeypot that's going to move from bonds to Bitcoin. So that's 100x from 2 million, right now, 2 trillion, right, to 200 trillion. That's 100x. So the price is 120,000 times 100. And that's a fair estimate of where we're going just on the demonetization of bonds, not even considering the demonetization of gold and property.
So 100x would be a conservative estimate.
It's a big number. And, and we're heading there. So why are you trying to time the market? Why people say, where's my price target? My price target is everything that's not Bitcoin is worthless. Everything goes to zero against Bitcoin. That's my price target. Yeah. Anything that you have that's not Bitcoin goes to zero. That's my price target. Whatever the only money you'll ever have in your life is Bitcoin. Nothing else will serve as money ever. And that bond apocalypse and that moment of reconciliation, that moment of truth about what Bitcoin means is rapidly approaching. And if you don't have Bitcoin, you're going to be a no-coiner. And if you're a no-coiner, you are going to be extinct.
Bitcoin is set to 100x, while everything else is headed to zero. That's the latest message from Max Keiser, a passionate Bitcoin maximalist and crypto advisor to Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele. Since first breaking the $100,000 mark on December 5th, 2024, Bitcoin has crossed that line multiple times, reaching an all-time high of $122,838 just last July 14th. Keiser believes we've now entered a full-scale monetary revolution. With Bitcoin firmly in six-figure territory, he says it's entering a phase of complete separation from the fiat system. In his view, every nation and every state that holds no Bitcoin will ultimately collapse. This, he argues, marks the beginning of a global repricing. One where Bitcoin goes to 100x and everything else trends towards zero. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video as Max Keiser reveals how fiat dies, how the state crumbles, and why Bitcoin holders will run the future.
Why now? Why is now the most important price surge?
Right now, because at 100,000, you have those people with coins entering the realm of extreme wealth. And as you get to 200,000, 300,000, 500,000, like Adam Back just, threw 30,000 coins at Howard Lutnick over there at Cantor Fitzgerald. That's $3 billion. Now, he's got probably 20 or $30 billion worth of Bitcoin. There's a lot of people out there with billions and billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. They haven't really done much over the past 10 or 15 years because they've been waiting for the price to hit a certain threshold and waiting for the world to get to a certain point where they feel comfortable now being in this new reality, this new world. And so that $100,000 was a very significant price point. And as you get higher, the states will disintegrate because states don't have any Bitcoin. So they will disintegrate and they'll go to war with each other. So I always say that money existed before the state. Bitcoin separates money from state. Bitcoin kills the state. So that's killing the state and central banks. So we're entering into a post-state, post-central bank world. So of the past 300 years. And we're in actually a post-money world where just our love is the guiding principle of our existence as humans on planet Earth. And that's made possible by Bitcoin. Well, fear is a hugely profitable business. And love is not. It's not a profitable business. So there's no love on the New York Stock Exchange. Love is not currently trading anywhere, except with Bitcoin. The price of love, you could say, is worth $2.something trillion. That's the Bitcoin is love. And if you look at the stock exchange, it's dominated by pharmaceuticals, insurance companies, banks, defense contractors. They're all based on fear and hate. And so they have...
The media.
Very
much.
Right. So all of these, I would say, gambling, casinos. So, 99% of everything that's traded on exchanges around the world is fear-based and hate-based. And so Bitcoin comes around and it pushes that out of the way and it's more love. Fiat money is a disease. And it's now about to wipe out billions. I feel very sorry for the IMF because they're a dying institution and they won't be around five years from now. I don't think that they don't survive Bitcoin. The IMF does not survive Bitcoin. or any central bank. The special drawing right, which is the currency of the IMF, continues to go to zero against Bitcoin. I mean, that's their lifeblood. It's disintegrating before our eyes. So I feel sorry for them because they're in denial. They haven't hit their Bitcoin bottom yet, so they'll end up in the gutter, toothless, homeless. I feel bad for them. They should get onto the Bitcoin before they destroy themselves and their family. The IMF says that Bitcoin is adding instability in the country, whereas Donald Trump is saying we need Bitcoin to add stability. The IMF is saying, it's stoking inflation, where Donald Trump will say, well, we need Bitcoin to control inflation. So the U.S. is the biggest contributor to the IMF, or the second biggest contributor to the IMF. So at some point, they're just going to pull the plug on the IMF because they're stupid.
What do you think about all those Bitcoin treasury companies? What's happening there?
Well, it's interesting. They are adding a lot of demand for Bitcoin. That's nice. But they're also reuniting Bitcoin with the state.
And Wall Street.
Yeah. So I think there's a role in that they're engaged in a speculative attack on Bitcoin, similar to what George Soros did in 1993 when he did an attack on the Bank of England. So he was borrowing money from the Bank of England to destroy the Bank of England, as the guy, I guess, kicked out of the ERM. So with Michael Saylor and the clones of Strategy are engaged in a massive global speculative attack against the dollar principally, but all fiat money, and they are succeeding to do so. And it's good. They're getting rid of the fiat money world. They're accelerating the collapse of central banks. They're accelerating the collapse of states. But they are putting Bitcoin into the hands of, getting away from the purest self-custody form of Bitcoin. And you're custodying your Bitcoin outside of self-custody. So there's risks involved. So I just like to remind people that there is a risk when you are backing Michael Saylor or these other the clones of Michael Saylor, because you in a risk that you don't have to, right? The beauty of Bitcoin is that you don't need a custody outside of yourself. You can self-custody, and that's the purest form of hodling. Bitcoin, which is the primary use case of Bitcoin, is to separate money from state. That's the number one use case for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a beautiful technology that turns greed into altruism.
That's true. It's
right. And so a lot of these people are acting out of pure greed, which is fine. Because
that's what got most people into Bitcoin in the first place.
Yeah, you come for the greed and you stay for the altruism. You stay for the love, but you come for the greed.
According to Keiser, central banks, bureaucracies, and supranational lenders are being dismantled in real time. Bitcoin, though not attacking them directly, is replacing the need for them altogether. For instance, the IMF was once feared as the global enforcer of monetary discipline, but according to Keiser, it's now watching its power dissolve block by block. And it's only getting worse. As nations like El Salvador accumulate Bitcoin reserves, Keiser predicts those assets will soon be used as collateral to retire IMF debt, rendering the institution obsolete in both function and influence. In a Bitcoin world, there's no need for lenders who traffic in control and coercion. There's no room for institutions that operate without consent. Keiser believes what's happening now is a revolution of protocol, and global elites never saw it coming.
Throughout history, we've searched for the more perfect form of money. We got to gold. Gold was the best money out there for thousands of years. And then Bitcoin came around and usurped gold as the ultimate perfect money. And that's why Bitcoin is demonetizing gold. People are selling their gold to buy Bitcoin. People are selling their real estate to buy Bitcoin. Commercial real estate in America is collapsing, in part because people no longer want to be in that business. They're buying Bitcoin. It's demonetizing the fine art market. It's demonetizing the bond market, which is the biggest honeypot, like $200 trillion. You see, the bond market is continuing to run into problems, particularly in the U.S. The U.S. is finding it very, very, very difficult to sell U.S. Treasury bonds to anybody except themselves. And that's in part because people want Bitcoin. They don't want U.S. Treasury bonds anymore. It was a primary money for so many years, but the US dollar no longer world reserve currency. So I don't want US Treasury bonds. I want Bitcoin. So it's demonetizing the bond market. That's a $200 trillion honeypot that's going to move from bonds to Bitcoin. So that's 100x from 2 million, right now, 2 trillion, right, to 200 trillion. That's 100x. So the price is 120,000 times 100. And that's a fair estimate of where we're going just on the demonetization of bonds, not even considering the demonetization of gold and property.
So 100x would be a conservative estimate.
No, well, it's a big number, and and we're heading there. So why are you trying to time the market? Or why people say, "What's my price target?" My price target is everything that's not Bitcoin is worthless. Everything goes to zero against Bitcoin. That's my price target.
Yeah.
Anything that you have that's not Bitcoin goes to zero. That's my price target. Whatever the only money you'll ever have in your life is Bitcoin. Nothing else will serve as money ever. And that bond apocalypse and that moment of reconciliation, that moment of truth about what Bitcoin means is rapidly approaching. And if you don't have Bitcoin, you're going to be a no-coiner. And if you're a no-coiner, you are going to be extinct. Gone. Just like there's a bunch of bears on a hill, and then there's brown bears, then there's a white bear, and the brown bears are like, ha ha ha, look at that white bear. He's going to get killed. Right? Then there's a big, massive snowstorm. The white bear, he survives. All the brown bears get killed. So don't be the brown bear in a massive snowstorm. Buy Bitcoin and survive. Or your family bloodline is gone, brother. Is gone. Every Bitcoin you have, you are helping facilitate the collapse of the fiat money world. So that we have to collapse the fiat money world. That's why when the corporate treasury companies are kind of reunifying money with state, and to me, they're like, it's great that there's a huge demand for Bitcoin, but they're also kind of keeping alive the organism that should already be dead, to a degree. And so there's kind of delaying the process. But inevitably, it will go down the path anyway. They're just putting in a minor speed bump toward that.
For most of history, gold was the best money we had. It held value for thousands of years. Then Bitcoin came along and replaced it, not just as a store of value, but as a stronger, incorruptible form of money. That's why people are selling gold, real estate, and even art to buy Bitcoin. It's draining value from every major asset class. Keiser sees the bond market as the largest honeypot of them all. It's worth over $200 trillion and is breaking down faster than any other asset class. The world is losing faith in bonds and turning to Bitcoin instead. This transition is exactly what Keiser believes will push Bitcoin 100 times. And that's without counting the collapse of gold or real estate. Ultimately, Keiser believes we're in a global reset, and everything that isn't Bitcoin is headed to zero. The shakeout is near, and if you're not holding Bitcoin, you'll be left behind. Now, if you want to stay most up to date on the crypto and Bitcoin world, subscribe to my daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a concise resource for the latest expert predictions, breaking news, and top on-chain analysis, trusted by over 90,000 subscribers for insightful crypto investment information. Don't miss out on the opportunity to stay informed in the crypto market. The link is in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and that it gave you some value. I'll see you all at the next one, and as always, all the best.